Hello everybody and welcome to my podcast, Unwind and Knit with me. My name is Lisa and I'm coming to you from Christchurch in New Zealand, and this is where I talk about my knitting, my fibre craft, what I'm knitting, what I've finished knitting, and there's always a really big list of things I'd love to be knitting. So I'll share with you some yarn and some patterns and some projects. So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you. If you are new to my podcast, also welcome, and I really hope you enjoy the content. This is episode 25 and it is a celebration because August last year is when I started podcasting. So this is Unwind and Knit with me, with Lisa from New Zealand's first birthday. So yay, 1 year old today, and it's you, the viewers, that I'd like to thank, because it's why I keep doing it and I keep coming back. The wonderful comments that I get and feedback and support also for doing this podcast. So thank you very much. Welcome to episode 25. Today is Friday the 12th of August. And it's actually a beautiful winter's day here, a really hard frost. I think it was about -4 or -5 this morning, but it's a beautiful day. But also want to give a shout out to everyone in the Northern Hemisphere that's trying really hard to cool down. And if you're knitting, I'm sure that you will have the air conditioner going to make your knitting a little bit more comfortable. For me here, I've actually got the fire going, so it's always a really good time of year for knitting. I'm not a big fan of winter, but I do love the fact that we can sit around and knit. You can follow me on social media. I am on Instagram as Unwind and Knit with me. Also Ravelry, Unwind and Knit with me, where we do have a couple of threads going over there. But I am really happy to announce that after my last episode, I met with some people that have helped me set up my website and my social media. And we now have a Facebook community group, which is what I always wanted, but I ended up with a business Facebook group, which wasn't ideal. So we now have a community Facebook group. It's called Unwind and Knit with me. You will be asked to answer 2 or 3 questions, very basic questions. And there's myself and 2 other friends that are moderators, and we will accept the invitation and then you're part of the group. So with that group, you are then able to post your projects or your acquisitions, yarn that you've bought, and we can all interact with each other. So it's really exciting. We've already got just over 100 members in that group. So please jump onto Facebook and join that group. I do get a bit of feedback from people that say, but I don't do Facebook. And that's cool. I get that because for a long time I didn't do Facebook either. But I do Facebook now, but only for my community groups, which are primarily knitting groups. And I share a Facebook page with my husband, and he's an ultra long distance running, and he belongs to some running groups. So that's sort of his community. So Facebook, I get it. If you don't do Facebook, there's a lot of people that it's just not a platform that they enjoy. But if you do use Facebook, please jump over to our community group. Yeah, Unwind and Knit with me. In my last episode, I had a prize winner for the podcast before that, and it was this beautiful yarn here from Kiwi Yarna, some stitch cables and a knitting journal, and that was Shiree Smith from the Hawke's Bay in New Zealand. I still haven't heard from Shiree, so Shiree, if you're watching, please contact me so I can get this parcel to you. I will let it run for another couple of weeks, and if I haven't heard from Shiree, we may redraw it, but I will give her a couple more weeks. So I did just want to touch on that bit of housekeeping. And I also have another prize giveaway that I did mention in my last podcast, and this is based around my new Facebook group. So what I thought I'd do, I have already had a couple of members post their projects, which is awesome. But I thought, because I'm actually announcing now that it is up and running, which it wasn't in my last episode. So what I'm going to do with my next giveaway is when you post something, if you just write #birthday, so it's a celebration of this podcast being 1 year old. So #birthday, and that will put you in the draw for the next giveaway. And the next giveaway is 7, I did show this in the last one, and sorry for the plastic, but it's 7 balls. It's a 4-ply, 100%, I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? I want to say, yeah, Polesworth. I was going to say Polesworth. Check that. Yeah, Polesworth wool. It's very local to me where I live here in Christchurch. It's grown here in the region. It's sent down south to be dyed, and then it's all spun here in Christchurch. So I've got 7 balls of that to give away, as well as my Stitch on Hold cables, 1 set of each, and the last knitting journal that I've got to give away. So that's #birthday on our Facebook group, and as always I will leave all the links below. So there is I think it says descriptions, and a description, and you press on show more on a little arrow, and all my show notes should drop down there. So everything I talk about in the way of patterns and yarns and websites, and even if I sometimes talk about other YouTubers, you will be able to access all that information in my show notes. So that's my next giveaway, #birthday. And my understanding is it's a lot easier when you do a hashtag to then do a random, Facebook generates a random winner, which makes it nice and fair. And I will post that anywhere in the world. So yeah, come join us. I think that's all with my housekeeping. I'm sure I'll think of more as we go. I'm hoping that this podcast flows smoothly. I may get 1 or 2 interruptions, but I will try to keep it as seamless as I can. So now I'm going to talk to you about finished objects, works in progress, what I'm wearing, and then at the end of the podcast I will talk about my online store, and I will give you a shop update of everything that's new in there. And that's, if you did want to go to my website, it's unwindandknit.com. But I will give you an update at the end of this episode for those that are interested. Hang around to the end. Okay, so what I'm wearing, I don't know if I've worn this before on a podcast. I do actually wear this quite a lot. I love the colour. It's called Dark Denim, and it's a high twist merino, and the yarn was dyed by Kiwi Yarna, who's a local dyer here. And I love this colour, Dark Denim. But the high twist just makes for a beautiful jersey. It's softer skin, really nice stitch definition, and very little pilling. I don't like pilling. I hate de-pilling clothing, but I wear this a lot, and to be quite honest, I don't think I've ever de-pilled it. So I better tell you what it is. I told you the yarn. So this came out a couple of years ago. It's called the One Ocean Collection, and it's by, so Libby Johnson is a designer here from New Zealand, and she did a collaboration with Greene, and I'm pretty sure Greene's from the USA, and they did a collaboration and they brought this book out. Although you can buy all these patterns individually, so I will leave the link, but the one that I have knitted, I hope I pronounce this right, it's called Coquille, and it's actually one that's by Greene. There's a picture of the pattern there, and it doesn't show up very well, but down the front here is a panel of lace. Now mine's not showing up too well either, because I've actually got a black singlet underneath. See if you can see that there, and it comes to here, just this wee panel of lace. so it's really just like a basic jersey with that tiny little bit of detail down the front. And I really enjoy, I love the shape, the construction, I should say. I love the construction. I love the way the shoulders fit. It was done top down as a yoke. Yeah, top down in the rounds. But just a really lovely wearable item. It's done in finger and weight yarn. So yeah, that's it there. Coquille by Marie Greene. And I do really highly recommend it. It's what I would call a very wearable piece. I have had a couple of friends knit it as well. I've seen mine and went, yep, I want to knit one of those. But I must say, I've probably knitted this maybe 3 years ago. So it's not recent, and it has had quite a bit of wear. So that's what I'm wearing. And like I said, I knitted that up in a 4-ply high twist by Kiwiana in the colour dark denim. So that's what I'm wearing. Excuse me. I hope you got a hot beverage or a cold beverage. Or if you're somewhere in the world and it's after 5, you might have a glass of wine. That'd be nice. I'm on my second coffee, so day's going good. Now, I do have a finished object, a finished item. That's always exciting. And I did show you this in my last podcast. I actually feel I feel organised, but in a messy way, which isn't like me because I'm normally very organised in a very tidy way. I went away for a couple of days this week, and I've had a busy couple of weeks. So, yeah, I kind of feel like I'm not quite settled, but anyway, I'll give it my best shot. So, in my last episode, I showed you this weekend slipover V-neck by Petite Knits. That's it there. And it's a vest. And I first saw this pattern with Joji, was wearing it from the Grocery Girls, which is a podcast that comes out of Canada. And Joji was wearing it and I just loved it. So I purchased the pattern. And I pretty well cast it on within a couple of days because I knew I had yarn in my stash that was perfect for it. And one of my goals this year has been to use stash yarn, which I've been doing. And I'm actually really quite proud of myself because I have all this beautiful yarn at my fingertips. But I am, just to let you know that I am still working on my stash. So the yarn I used for this was a kid silk mohair by Yarn Therapy. She's a dyer here in New Zealand. And the other yarn was a Malabrigo 4-ply. So they're the two there that I held together. And that is, I'm pretty sure the colour is called Shadow. But yeah, it's a silver. This is, it's a dark charcoal with, I actually think it's got a wee bit of almost like a really dark mauve colour in it. But it has knitted up, I did do a swatch. There's my swatch there. It has knitted up really quite grey and silver. The actual pattern calls for worsted weight yarn. And I didn't want to do worsted weight yarn because I just thought it'd be too hot and heavy for me. So I used the recommended needle size, which was a 5.5. It was a 5.5. But I didn't get gauge. I was short 3 or 4 stitches. So I just went up a couple of sizes and I winged it and it worked out really well. What I wanted to say, showing you these, I used 2 skeins of each. So I used 2 skeins of the Malabrigo. They were 384 meters and the silk mohair was 420 meters. I had 2 skeins of each in my stash and that's what I have left over. So for sure, if you've got 800 meters of each or 2 skeins of each in your stash, you've got more than enough to finish this vest. Now this is my first vest. I've never knitted a vest. I've never really worn a vest or owned a vest, and I have been wearing this and I love it. So, and I wanted to wear it, but there's a reason I didn't want to wear it, because I want to show you the hem on it, and I thought I can't really do that well if I'm wearing it. But the V-neck there, you can see, and also you see there, maybe if I open that up, the sleeve has that same detail, and it's a CDD, which is a center double decrease, so you're decreasing 2 in the center, which gives you this lovely V feature that you can see there. Hope you can see it. But I have been wearing it. I've worn it over a white t-shirt, and I've also worn it over a black you know, long sleeve merino undergarment, thermal, whatever you call them. So I have worn it a bit, and actually my daughter loves it and she wants to pinch it. So I always think that's a real compliment when my 22-year-old daughter wants to wear my clothes. So that's the finished item. What I wanted to tell you about this is the cast off. What was it called? It was a tubular bind off, which doesn't have any stretch. There's no stretch in that at all. And when I did the sleeves, I did the ribbing for the sleeves and the neckband before I had done the body. And I thought, well, that's really quite neat, because you don't want that neckline or even the sleeves flaring out. You want the rib to be closed off quite nicely, which it is. So there's quite a bit of structure in that cast off, and there's no stretch. And the same bind off was recommended for the body at the bottom here. And that's what I did. I did that bind off, and it took me nearly 2 days, because it's a bind off that's a bit like a Kitchener stitch, you know, with a tapestry needle, and there's about 4 movements to bind off 1 stitch. So it took me a really long time, and I was so happy, and I had it all finished, and I even blocked it. I wet blocked it, laid it out, and I got up the next day when it was dry, and I went to put it on, and there was no stretch in the bottom of the band, and I couldn't actually get it over my hips. I was really disappointed. And I've got a friend doing the same pattern, and I contacted her and said, don't bind off. I mean, bind off, but don't use that bind off. And I told her what happened. So I couldn't unpick it. I had to actually take to it with the scissors, pull it back quite a bit, pick up all my rib and redo my rib and do a different cast off. So, and that's what happens with knitting, right? I won't say I'm disappointed, because that's just part of knitting. Not everything works out the way you want it to. So I picked up all my stitches and I finished my rib, and the cast off I did is a cast off that I don't know the name of it, but it is a cast off I often do on my socks. And that's where on the very last round, you knit the round instead of rib, just knit the whole round and then cast off in knit. And it gives you, let's see if I can show you that. Yeah, you can see that. It gives you a really neat cast off, and there's no flaring of the rib, but it's still got a bit of stretch to it. So that's the cast off I did, and I have recommended that cast off to a couple of friends because it was recommended to me, and I love it, and I wish I knew. I'm sure there's a name for it. Let me know in the comments if you know the name for it. But basically, the very last row is knit, and then you cast off in knit instead of casting off in rib. So that's my weekend Slipover V-neck. I might wear that on my next podcast, so you can actually see what it looks like on. I do know that I have tempted a few people to cast this on. I have had a few comments saying, yep, I'm tempted, I'm going to do it. So, and do you know what? I'd probably do another one. But in saying that, what this made me do was actually jump onto Ravelry and have a look at some other vests, because there were some really nice vests. And like I said, I've never worn vests, and I don't really know why. because I think they're perfect for well, especially with winter. Like, you need to layer up, but you don't want to layer up too much, because as soon as you get indoors it's hot, and then if you suffer with a couple of hot flushes, you don't want to be wearing heavy wool. So the idea of just having something light on my sleeves but something warm on my body makes perfect sense. So that's that finished object, and I do recommend it. When I that's what I wanted to show you. So when I pulled out this book by Libby Johnson and Marie Greene, I actually saw this pattern, and I just thought I'd share it with you quickly. It's called the Travelest, and it is a vest. And she's actually done that in worsted weight, I think a Brooklyn tweed. So you can actually see it's quite a tweedy yarn that she's used, and it's really quite boxy, but I like it. So I have actually marked that page, and we have a wee look at that. I do have some my Appledore DK yarn, and it's DK, it's not worsted, but it does have that real plain colour, and I just think it would work really well. It's for that tweedy look, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's the Travelest by Marie Greene. So I will leave the links below for both those vest patterns, and also for the pattern that the link for the jersey that I'm wearing now. What's my next thing? I'm just going through my notes here. I did want to mention one thing quickly, and it probably belongs at the end in my show notes, but I have got it here, so I'm actually going to mention it. With colour work, especially if you're doing you know, stripes or stranded colour work yoke, it's often hard to purchase your wool from a website, because you don't know how the colours are really going to play together. You do get them in your shopping cart, and that's one way of having a look at them, so you can sort of see how they work against one another. But it can be quite difficult if you're wanting even just 3 or 4 colours to really know how they're going to look together. So what I wanted to mention to you, if you are on my website and you want to have a bit of a play with colours but you're not sure, send me a message, and I'm more than happy to lay those combinations out and take a photo of them and send them to you, even several combinations. And I think that will work well, because I know myself that sometimes buying wool online, you're really not sure of the colours and how they're going to look close up together. So yeah, keep that in mind. I am happy to do that. Oh, and the other thing, in my last podcast, I talked about lifelines and how I got caught out once by not threading the yarn. What I did was I threaded the yarn through my stitch markers. And I just thought that was the silliest thing that I could have done, because then, of course, the stitch markers aren't going to travel with you. But I did have one lady comment, and I thought, well, of course, it makes perfect sense. It's actually a good thing to weave your lifeline through your stitch markers, because then if you do have to pull it back to that lifeline, the stitch markers are still there dividing up all your work, because most knitters have lots and lots of stitch markers. It's not like we only have those 4 or 5 that are in that project. So then as you move up, you just put in another lot of stitch markers. I hope that makes sense, what I'm saying there. But yeah, that was a really good tip. I don't know why I got so caught up in the fact that you shouldn't weave your lifeline through your stitch markers. So that's that. Okay, I've talked about my finished object. I'm going to talk to you about some of my whips. Okay, so in my last podcast, I showed you this beautiful self-striping sock yarn with the contrasting yarn there for the heels and toes and cuffs. And since seeing you last time, I did cast it on. And the pattern is a free pattern from Ravelry, and it's called Extranilla Socks by the Unapologetic Knitter. That's it there. So it's a really basic sock pattern. It's cuffed down and it is designed for changing the colours in the heel and the toe, mainly the heel. So since seeing you, I cast it on. It's cuffed down. I haven't got very far, as you can see. I'm using Magic Loop on my Chalgoo. I use for my socks a 2.25mm. For my husband's socks, I use a 2.5. So this is a 2.25. I've cast it on, super, super happy with it. But since casting it on, come across another pattern. So I'm thinking I haven't got far, so I'm thinking I'm actually going to unravel that. I think I'm going to pull it out because I love this pattern more. So it's called Fairground Feet, and it's by Paintbox Yarns. And this is also done in a self-striping yarn, but I love the detail. I love that pattern work at the top there. Now, quite often when I see pattern socks, I think that self-striping yarn is too good for them because you don't want to lose that beautiful self-striping in pattern work. So my way of thinking is that I always reserve these beautiful self-striping yarns for a plain sock. So it's the self-striping that actually stands out and tells a story. But with this one here, there's kind of a bit of both. So the whole foot and heel's all plain, but this beautiful cuff I really like. So it is, I'm pretty sure it's cuffed down. I haven't had a good read of it, but I also like that round toe. So I think I've talked myself into it. I am going to unravel. I am going to unravel this, and I'm going to. Yeah, a friend told me about this pattern, so yeah, I jumped on and bought it. But that's it there. So it's called Fairground Feet. So I will leave the link below for that pattern, and yeah, I'm going to unravel it and start a new pair of socks. So that's one of my whips. But I will also leave the link for that Extranilla sock on Ravelry, because it is a free pattern. And we all like free patterns, and it's just a really nice basic one to have in your collection. So my next whip. Now, I can't remember if I'd cast this on. I may have just cast it on, but it's the Winter Beach Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I've talked about it a lot. This is my second Winter Beach Cardi. I love the pattern. It's just such a really wearable cardigan, and I do need more cardigans in my wardrobe. Winter Beach. Actually, when I talked about it in my last podcast, I called it a summer beach, and I thought, oh, surely no one will notice. So I didn't do a correction, but it is a winter beach. I don't know what made me say summer beach. But I'm knitting that up in Appledore DK. Sorry, I could just hear a noise. So Appledore is a British yarn, and it's done by Arbon Textiles, and they do some amazing colours. What they do with colour is really outstanding. I'm pretty sure I've talked about that. But that's the yarn I'm using, Appledore DK. I've made a pretty good start, but it hasn't been getting a lot of my time, I must say. So that's it there. It's coming along lovely. That pink you can see through there is actually my lifeline. And this is one pattern that I do recommend that you put lifelines in, because, you know, we're talking 300 or 400 stitches, and there's a lot of moss. Well, it's all moss, double moss and cable, and it's really easy just to sort of look back at your work and think, oh, what happened there? I've done the cable the wrong way. That's what happened the first time I knitted this pattern. So I do recommend lifelines. But that's it. It's coming along really lovely, hey. I'm really happy with it. But, and the yarn's beautiful. The yarn is beautiful to knit with. But like I said, it hasn't got, I haven't given it a lot of time over the last couple of weeks because I've got another new cast on, which has been getting a bit more of my time. But I do recommend that cardigan. It is a really nice cardigan. Yeah, so that's the Winter Beach Cardi by Andrea Mowry, and I will leave the link below, and that's knitted up in Appledore DK. Now, so the next two things I'm going to show you are actually new cast-ons. So they're whips, but they are new cast-ons. No surprises there. No judgments. We don't judge here. Have as many cast-ons as you like. As many whips as you like. Okay, I'm just going to pause this because I have to reach over to get the pattern. Okay, sorry for that interruption. My daughter came down to make a coffee and the coffee machine's really quite loud. So I don't know if you could hear that in the background, but it distracted me there for a minute. So this new cast on is, I told you I was going to do it. I did mention it, but it's another Petite Knits pattern and it's the No Frills Sweater. It is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. But the story with this is the yarn. So this is my third attempt at using this yarn. This is the yarn that just keeps getting recycled and finding a new purpose. So I first used this yarn to do Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry, and I got most of the body completed and fell out of love with it. But the yarn was too precious to just frog, so I actually ripped the whole thing back. And then, and you'd know this if you've been following my podcast, so then I cast on a pattern called Tulip, which was a fairly basic raglan style with scallops along the bottom. And I don't know what I did wrong, but when I knitted right down to where I had to divide for the sleeves, and something went terribly wrong. My raglan sleeves, the increases didn't line up, the seams didn't line up, and I pretty well made a mess of it. I didn't read the pattern correctly, I misinterpreted, and I just got really disheartened with it, so I ripped it back. So this is my third attempt to use this yarn, and the yarn is two strands held together. So it's Prosper yarn, which is a merino linen, held together with a silk mohair, and it's given me this beautiful dusty pink. So as you can see, it's quite precious. It's beautiful wool. Now the story I want to tell you is when I cast this on, again, I got stuck. The same as I did with the Tulip jersey, I didn't understand the make one left, make one right. I didn't know whether I had to make that within the stitch markers or either side of the stitch markers. And sometimes, and I often say this with knitting, no one's an expert. We're all on a journey, and with every project, I think we learn new things. But the important thing is to reach out and ask people if you're not sure. So that's what I did. I rang a friend and I just said, I don't know. I need a fresh set of eyes to look at this because I think I've got it wrong again. And she looked at it, and within a minute she had the answer, and it was really easy. It was really straightforward. Basically, you do your make one left, make one right, either side of the stitch marker. And it gives you this, you can see that seam there, that beautiful faux seam. So what I now know, you see that there, what I now know with the Tulip jersey, there was nothing wrong with the pattern. It was my mistake that I just misread it. So what I did with the Tulip pattern is I started off very much the same, but I was doing my make one right, make one left within the stitch markers. Which gave you a very different shape. So yeah, so the Tulip pattern, it wasn't there. It wasn't the pattern mistake. It was all my mistake. And with this one, I think I would have made the same mistake. But as soon as my friend pointed it out to me, it was like, oh my God, that's so clear. How did I not understand that? But like I said, I think sometimes we just need a fresh set of eyes to look at it and for them to interpret it. And it's like, yep, the bell goes off and yeah, it makes perfect sense. But I've been working away at this quite a lot. I love the neckline. I did do, what did I do there? I think it was just a long tail cast on. Or I actually, no, it wasn't. I did that twisted German cast on. Makes a beautiful cast on. And then there was a series of short rows. So that's the front. That's the front there. There was a series of short rows along the back. And the other thing I learned, and this is why I say we learn new things with I do. I just find I'm always learning on this knitting journey. There's just so much to learn. But so your short rows, you were going back, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And I had to make one left, make one right on the purl side. And it is very clear in the pattern. But to make one right, you always go through the back and knit through the front. But if you're doing that on a purl row, a make one right is purl through the front, no, lift from the front and purl through the back. It's opposite. And I've never done that technique before. So if you are going to do this pattern, make sure you read the instructions for your make one left, make one right all the way down, because it'll have your normal instructions and then it'll have how to do it on a purl row. And a lot of you might be sitting there going, really, Lisa? How did you not know that? You've probably done that technique before, but it was new to me. So I thought I'd share that with you, because we're always learning new things. Now I'm about 10 rounds from actually dividing for the sleeves, which I'm really looking forward to. I just love it. Feels beautiful. It is so soft and airy and light. And I really think that third time lucky. I really think this wool has found its purpose. I did swatch and I got gauge, so I was happy with that. The rib is on a 3mm, the body is on a 4mm. And it does call for finger and weight held together with a mohair. I'm pretty sure it does. That's what I've done anyway. Yes, yeah, it's the two yarns held together. And I just think it's going to be a really nice basic piece for my wardrobe. That's it there. And I think I haven't read too far. I haven't read about the sleeves, but I think the sleeves must be a little bit ballooned, and I'll really like that if that's the case. I think that will be something new. I've never done balloon sleeves. Sorry, got the back of my head there. So what have I got here? I'm working through a list. Oh, that's my no frills. So yeah, that's a new cast on since last time I saw you. I have put a lot of my time into doing that, and as a result I haven't done any of my Marie Wallen or my Marit cardigan, in case you're wondering. And I don't know, I mean, colour work's my thing. I love colour work, but for some reason I just haven't wanted to do it. When I do pick it up and do it, I love it. I think I've got to be in the right space, because you do have to read from the chart, and there's sort of probably a bit more concentration involved than doing something like a no frill sweater. But yeah, I haven't done any on those two projects, so I won't show them to you because there's really nothing new to show. But I have another new cast on, which is why I haven't done any of the others. Oh dear. One day I'm going to get one project and just knit one project. I don't think I've ever done that. Anyway, on my last episode, I told you that I wanted to knit another shawl. So I had done, actually it's hanging up there, you probably can't see it. I had done the Pure Joy by Locatelli and loved it. Really nice, relaxing knitting. So I also wanted to knit Dotted Rays by Stephen West, which is a really similar sort of shawl. It's a sort of a long crescent with eyelets, would you call them, the holes through it, and it just really appealed to me. But again, I knew I had the yarn in my stash, and I wanted to use stash yarn this year. That was my goal. And when I saw this pattern, I knew what yarn I was going to use. So anyway, I purchased this pattern, Stephen West pattern by Dotted Rays, without actually thinking that I actually own one of Stephen West's books. West Knits, Best Knits. It's all shawls. This whole book's full of shawls. And the funny thing is it's actually got Dotted Rays in there. So now I own it twice. That was silly. But the thing I wanted to show you with this, I'll show you the colours I'm doing and how much progress I've made. But this is an awesome stash buster. Now look at that one there. I mean, there's no real... I mean, he's just used any colours and they look fabulous together. So I think that you could literally go through your stash and blindly pull out 10 colours in 4-ply and you would end up with a really similar result. So that's it there. It shows up better in that photo than the green. So what this pattern does is it's all I-cord edging as well, which I wanted to do because I haven't done much I-cord, and the result is beautiful on a shawl. So that's the other thing that appealed to me, was just, I suppose, perfecting that technique of I-cord, because I-cord is something that you can put on other projects even if they don't ask for it. So it does have I-cord edging, but it's all short. The wedges are all short rows. So you knit, say you knit row 2 and 3, which is your eyelet row. Then there's a series of short rows, and then 4 and 5 eyelets, then all your short rows. Then 4, 5, 6, 7 is your eyelets. So what I did, this will make sense what it might... I feel like I'm rambling, but it will make sense. So I had this yarn in my stash. This is a real multicoloured sort of self-striping 4-ply. Lots of colour in there. And then the black. And I had bought these a couple of years ago at a wool fest to do a different shawl. And I was intimidated by the pattern, so it never happened. But now it's finding a home. So what I'm doing is the multicolour, but all of the eyelet rows are in black. So you can see that shows it up quite well. So this is just all self-striping. And I'm doing the black for each numbered row. And I'm just carrying that yarn, because it's an I-cord. That's it there. I don't know. I'm carrying that black right along, and you can't see it because it just gets hidden in that I-cord edge. So I'm not changing. I'm not having to change the yarn, like cutting and re-adding it. I'm just carrying it up as I go. I feel like I'm rambling. I don't know if this is making sense, but anyway. If you want to do it, the pattern is really easy to follow, and it's the numbered rows is where I've done the black, and all the other rows are short rows, and that's where all the colour work is. I am going to do the long version. There is a short version and a longer version. I've got enough wool for it, and I just like to be able to wrap it around. but in saying that, I think I'm going to gift this. I did mention that I want to start doing a few things and putting them away for Christmas, and I have got a friend in mind for this one. So that's my Dotted Rays by Stephen West. Highly recommend it. It's not at all difficult. The I-cord feature is beautiful, and I know I'm probably speaking to a lot of viewers that have done a lot of Stephen West knit-alongs. I never have. Part of me, I have done a Stephen West, it's not in here, might have been the Extravaganza. I have done a Stephen West shawl that had a bit of brioche and lots of colour, and I'm a little bit intimidated by them, to be quite honest. But one day I might do one of his knit-alongs. I mean, I highly respect the man, what he comes up with. I think he's a genius. But this is one of his less, what's the word? It's a bit more conservative, this pattern. It's not too over the top. So it's my Dotted Rays. And you know, I did that pretty much over a Saturday and a Sunday. I did that. We have, which I'm pretty sure that most of you in the world would know, maybe not Americans would know, but we've just finished the Commonwealth Games. They were held in England, and that's why I got lots of knitting done over the weekend, because all we watched was sport. My husband loves watching sport, any type of sport. He loves like Tour de France, Golf Opens. We follow, and we're not petrol heads, but we follow the Grand Prix, Indy cars in America. That's because we've got 2 Kiwis over there racing that are doing really well, Scott Dixon and Scott McLaughlin. And I often joke about my husband, and I'll say to people, if there was nothing else on TV except for lawn bowls, he'd watch lawn bowls. Well, he didn't surprise me. We spent 2 days watching lawn bowls, or he did. And I had one ear pod in, and I was watching podcasts on my tablet. So I was in the room, but I wasn't as focused on the games. But hey, New Zealand, we did really well for the size of our country. I think we're only a country of 5 million, so we're very small. And I think we had our best medal tally ever. So anyway, that's a bit of a sidetrack, but the games were awesome. And I loved following, I think Canada was it Australia, England, Canada, and then New Zealand? I think we come 4th in the overall medal tally. But it was great seeing Canada and England, but I wasn't fussed on that. We did really well in the lawn bowls, but I mean, it's like watching paint dry, right? But that's probably what he thinks about my knitting. So, yeah, that was the Commonwealth Games update. It was fun to watch, really. So that's my Dotted Rays. Where am I up to? Right. I'm going to go off track a little bit here, and I'm going to talk about my spinning just quickly. I have mentioned to you that I got my spinning wheel out, and I know with spinning a lot of it's practice to get good, and I've been trying to perfect my technique a little bit, and so I'll show you. A few months ago, I got my wheel out. I hadn't touched it for 10 years, and I spun 2 lots of yarn. Well, it was one slither, and then I applied the 2 together, and it was really quite chunky and uneven, but it knitted into this beanie really nicely. I have showed you this. This is a really basic beanie, and I knitted that out of my hand spun, put a wee tag on it, made with love, and it's a beautiful wee beanie. And I thought, well, that's a really good way of using up my hand spun that's really not quite good enough to put into a jersey or a garment. So I did a second lot, and I tried to put more twist into it so it wouldn't be so chunky and uneven. And it's a wee bit better, but it's not great. So I'll show, I did 2 and then I applied them together to sort of get that barber pole look. But that's it there. And you can see there's still some quite thick bits in there. It is a wee bit better, but it's not great. So I'm going to knit another beanie. And they will go into my gift knitting. They will go away for gifts for Christmas. Now the pattern I use there is called the M hat, and I will leave the link below. And it's a free pattern. Once again, it's a really good one just to have in your collection if you've got a bit of leftover DK or worsted weight yarn. But the M hat, free pattern off Ravelry, and I've done 2 of these actually. I did one for my daughter's boyfriend that wasn't in hand spun. This one, and I'm going to knit that up for a 3rd one, and that will go into my collection for knits. So in saying that, I thought, now Lisa, stern talk to myself, focus and really have a look at your wheel. And you know, so I've tried to get it finer, and I've tried to get more twist into it, because I know when you apply it back, then you lose some of that twist. So I think I've managed to do it. So I've done this bobbin, and it looks way finer, and it looks a lot nicer than those original ones. And I'm really, really happy with it. And on my wheel at the moment, I have a lighter colour, and I'm going to apply the 2 together. And I'm absolutely stoked. This is 70% merino, 30% silk, and I'm really happy with it. So yeah, it's my spinning. I think a lot of knitters dabble a bit in spinning or crochet and or other fibre crafts. So I hope you don't mind me sharing my my spinning journey with you. It's not a big part of my life, but I do, it's not a biggest part of my life as my knitting is, but I do love, I think it's that real rhythm. My wheel's an Ashford's wheel, and it's a double treadle, and it's just that real rhythm that I really enjoy. So yes, that's that. And I did a trip to Ashford's. So Ashford's is the home of the Ashford spinning wheel, and I know they're famous worldwide. Everywhere over the world, I think people know of Ashford's. And they're only just over an hour drive from where I live. So I went for a drive. I've got a friend in Ashford, so that's where I went. I went and I spent a couple of nights with her. But this is the yarn that I'm going to apply together with that. And it's got the silk in it, and it's, to me, it almost looks pearlescent, but that's what I've got on my wheel at the moment. And I purchased that 100 grams from Ashford's. And the other colour I got was this one, which is a more earthy yellows and browns. So I actually bought 2 of these, and I'll apply them together. So that was some of my acquisitions from Ashford's. It's such a beautiful shop, and there's a big coffee shop attached to it, so you could like literally spend hours there. I often call in there if we're heading out of town and we go past it, and my husband goes in the coffee shop and reads the paper while I go shopping or browsing in the Ashford store. So that was yeah, that was a little road trip I did, and I really enjoyed it. So that's, still working through my list here. Oh, I will mention this again. I have exercised restraint. I showed you this pattern last time, and I told you I wanted to cast it on, and it's the Kevat by Caitlin Hunter. And I won't go on about it too much because I haven't actually cast it on, but that's what I thought I'd tell you. I've actually really exercised restraint because I have this beautiful yarn, and I've been, my ball winder is sitting over here, and every day I think, oh, I'll wind that today. And every day I think, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because if you do it, you'll cast it on and then you won't get your other things completed. But I showed this yarn and I have had a couple of people purchase it for the Kevat. So I'm really interested. I hope those people post it on our Facebook community group, because it'd be really nice to see how it's knitting up, because I've bought exactly the 2 colours that I want to knit mine in. And this is the Yarnadelic, which is a 5-ply. The main colour I'm using is called Soul Drum, and the contrast is Confide in Me. But I do still have it here, and I really want to cast it on, but I'm exercising a wee bit of restraint. But what I will tell you is a friend of mine is knitting a jersey in this colour, Soul Drum, and I met up with her last week, and she's sort of done that much. Oh my God, this colour is outstanding. It's, you probably can't see it, but in the light, it's got like some denim blue through it. I don't know if it's picking up, but it's a really interesting colour in the light. I don't even know how to describe this colour. It's just so good. But what I wanted to say about it, because even she said to me, it's so light. It knits up really light and airy, and it's just beautiful. So I really want to knit that up, but I also, what I'm going to do is when she's finished that jersey, I might even see if I can get it off her before she finishes it, and I'll show it to you in the next podcast, because I really think it's worth highlighting, because it's just an outstanding yarn. So yeah, that's on my list. Oh yes, of what I want to cast on. And the other one that I want to cast on, and I am talking about the yarn that I sell. So I don't know if you'd consider it a shop update or not, but I'm showing you the patterns and the yarn that I want to knit these patterns in, which is yarn that I sell in my online store. So if you consider that a shop update and you don't, you're not interested in my shop update and you want to leave me now, that's fine. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you up on episode number 26. But if not, hang around and I'll show you these patterns that I want to knit. Where are we? Photos. So this pattern here, you've probably all seen it. Let me get rid of that. I haven't printed this one off yet, but it's called the Douglas Cardigan, and it's by Andrea Mowry. Sorry for that reflection, but which is why I don't like using my devices. I like to show you the paper copy because you don't get reflection. But this is on Ravelry, as all of Andrea's patterns are. I did see an interview with her, and she named this cardigan, I think, after her grandfather. I think his name was Douglas. But it's just got that feel and that look to it, like Granddad's big warm cardi. And I think that's what inspired her. But there's 5 colours in it, and it's striped. And as I said earlier on, I need more cardigans in my wardrobe. So I want to knit this. And I actually think it'll be quite a quick knit because it's all stockinette stitch. Just want to see if I can show you that. Oh, it's not showing up too good. But jump on Ravelry and have a look for that pattern, the Douglas Cardi. Now there's 5 colours, and I picked out 5 colours in the DK range. And I actually think, let's see if I can hold them up properly. I actually think they would work beautiful for that pattern, because it's kind of that Granddad's cat. It's kind of like a moody, relaxed kind of colorway. So what I've got, this one here, and all these yarns show different colors. So this is like a gray, but it's got a lot of blue and purple in it. And this is then the purple, this dark purple, which has flecks of blue and grey. And this is like a green that has flecks of these 2 colours. So there's 3. But then I thought that gold as the pop, and then a bit of a sort of muted pink. So they're the 5 colours. Now, if you look at Andrea's pattern and the colourway she's done, they're really similar. And I'd never think to put 5 colours like that together until I saw that pattern. And I just thought, I mean, you could use any colour. I've seen some on the projects on Ravelry where people have used really random stripes and blue and white and, you know, pink and purple and just 2 colours. But they're the 5 colours that I've chosen. And they are really quite moody colours that all blend together, and then you've got that pop of gold. So I think I am going to do a swatch with those 5 colours. For this Douglas cardigan, and I'll show you the swatch, and I'll see, I'll let you know. I won't cast it on yet, but I definitely think I'm going to swatch for it. I'll have a look at those colours again in the light. I might switch 1 or 2 of them out, but I will swatch, and I will let you know how I go. So that's what I want to do. Oh, that's the other thing. Actually, if I got it at hand, I have got one here. So, once again, I suppose this is the shop update with the Jamieson and Smith. So they call that 2-ply jumper weight. So it's a fingering weight yarn. I've got 40 odd of the colours, and I've got another about 25 come in, and they'll be here in the next couple of weeks, so that colour range is really going to be extended. But here's that's a swatch there that's been done. I think we used 5 colours, that one there, and then so that's sort of in the pinks and mauves, and then we did this one in the blues and browns and greys, and these are more my colour choice. I'm not real big on pinks and purples. So these are with the Jamieson and Smith 4-ply fingering weight, I should say, 2-ply jumper weight, which is fingering weight. And I am going to pick out some other colours and swatch, because I want to do another stripes jersey, which is another Andrea one. I've talked about this a lot on my podcasts. I have knitted it. I've got a friend that knitted it in the sock yarn, but that's the actual pattern there. And it's done from the top down like you would do a yoke sweater. And it's once again, it's like this. It's really wearable. I love the shape. I love the style. So that's the other thing I want to do over the next few weeks is pick out 6 colours. I'm going to do 6. And I want to do colours like what she's done there with the mustards and the blue and the plum and the grey. Yeah. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. And like I said, if you want to do any of these kind of colour work projects and you're not really convinced about how the colours are going to work together, flick me a message and I'll lay them out, and I'll lay a few different combinations out for you, and I'll take a photo if that helps you select some colours. But what I wanted to say too, this is, it's not soft like a merino. It is 100% Shetland wool. It would be soft enough for me, maybe a wee bit scratchy, but I could wear that as a jersey, no worries, but definitely as a cardigan. And quite often, like with these, quite often with the jersey, I wear a singlet under them anyway. So that was my next thing on my list that I wanted to talk about. I do want to do another stripes jersey. And just going back to the Jamieson and Smith, like I said, there's another 20 odd colours coming, which will be added to the website in the next few days. But Shetland Wool Week, 24th of September to the 2nd of October. Now these beanies here, now these are a free pattern. You can download this for free. So just go to Shetland Wool Week website. I will leave the link below, and you can download the patterns for these 5 beanies. And I think 2 or 3 of them have actually been done in Jamieson and Smith. And I thought I'd put some combinations together, and I might even put them on my website as a kit. So yeah, look out for that over the next couple of weeks if that's your thing. If you're into, you want to do a bit of colour work, most of them have I think 5 colours, So you're looking at about $45. But in saying that, you would probably get 2 beanies. You would have left over, and you'd probably get 2 beanies out of those 5 balls of wool. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you again. That's yeah, we should celebrate Shetland Wool Week. Yeah, 24th of September to the 2nd of October. And I'm starting to get really close to the end of my list. Shetland Wool Week. Okay, I'm just going to reach for a drink. Okay, back again, we drink. Just a shop update now. I have a couple of new ranges coming my way that are somewhere out there on a freight plane or freight boat somewhere on their way to me. And one of the brands is called Nurturing Fibres, and it comes out of South Africa. And what I'm getting is a range, and it's a super twist merino. And I have, a friend of mine has knitted with this yarn, and I've had a good feel and a play with it, and it's beautiful. It's it knits up like this, where soft to the skin, 100% merino, but the high twist so you don't get that pilling and the fluffing. So I have got that coming to me. I think I've got 10 colours, and they are actually on my website now, but you'll see that it says out of stock. So I haven't actually, as soon as it arrives, I'll add the stock onto it. But you can go in and have a look at the colours. So that's on its way. But also with that, from the same company, they have a kids silk mohair, which is divine. It's just beautiful. And I think I've got 5 colours coming in with that. And those 5 colours you could all match up with the merino. So I have ordered them that you could, if you want a double strand to do like your love note or a ranunculus or the vest. So I have got that high twist merino and the kid silk mohair, so that's really exciting, and that will probably arrive before I come and do my next podcast. So jump over to the website and have a look. I probably will post on Facebook when that arrives. And the other range that is coming, and I don't think it's left yet, but I have talked to you about the Yarnadelic, which is John Arbon Textiles out of the UK. And they have a range of 18 colours. This is the 5-ply. They call it a heavy 4 or a 5. And I really wanted to get this because I really think there's a place in the market, especially here in New Zealand, for 5-ply yarn. And the colours, they're just swatches, but beautiful colours. And like I showed you with those 2 before, the colours play in the light. They're really outstanding. They're not just a blue or just a green or just a purple. They have other colours that jump out at you in different lights. It's really quite special what John Arbon Textiles are able to do with their colour. So that's really exciting. But like I said, I don't think that order has even been packed up and left yet. But that is something else that's coming to my shop. I have just topped up on all my sock blockers. So I have a lot of them in stock in small, medium and large. And the other thing, I don't think I've shown you this before, but I think we all need one of these attached to our project bags. And it's the Kitchener Stitch. It's like a cheat key. It's actually a wee key ring. So it's got your pearl front on, knit back on, knit front off, pearl front on, you know, that really complicated 4-step procedure that you have to do a Kitchener stitch. Well, this is your cheat key for it. They're really, really handy. Also, you've heard me talk endlessly about my cables, stitch on hole cables. So there's the small and the large. They're for 2.5 up to about a 3.54 mil needle, and then anything over a 4 or a 4.5 mil needle, I would recommend the large. So they're $20 a tin, and you get, depending on the size, you get 2 lengths of the 1 metre and 2 lengths of the 1.5 metre. And I also have just restocked up on my Knitter's Balm. So this is a dandelion infused with sunflower oil and beeswax, and it's quite a thick balm, but it's safe to use with your wool. And I use this most nights. I rub it into my cuticles because it's always my cuticles or my nails that will catch on my yarn. So I massage it into my cuticles most nights and then just rub the rest into my hands. But I do the little 50 gram, which is ideal for your project bag. I also do a bigger one, an 85 gram. But yeah, I do really like that knitter's balm. And that's all. That's all I've got to share with you. It's been a funny wee episode because I actually felt a little bit anxious that I wasn't going to have enough to talk about, because I have had I don't know, just an unusual 2 weeks. And I think when you go away for a few days, that always throws you out a little bit. But I have managed to fill up, I don't know how much time, but I'm sure I'm about that 1 hour mark. So yeah, just a reminder, our Facebook community page, which is Unwind and Knit with Me. And I think there's 2 pages. One of them is the business one, but what you're looking for is the community one. And you'll answer a couple of questions and someone will go in and accept. It's like an invitation. You've got to be invited into the group and post what you're doing or what you've bought, or it could be anything about your craft, and use hashtag birthday. And on episode 26, which will be my next episode, I will draw a winner from those hashtag birthday entries for this beautiful yarn and stitch holders, and there's a wee project book in there. So once again, I hope you've stuck with me through to the end. I want to say thank you because it is our 1 year, or my 1 year anniversary, and it wouldn't be possible without you, my viewers, and I am extremely grateful. So please subscribe if you haven't already, share it with your friends, give it the thumbs up, do whatever you do, so Instagram sort of rates the podcast so it gets more views. I'm not sure how all those algorithms work, but I think the more interaction that I get with my podcast, the better. But and I know a lot of my viewers have been with me right from the beginning for the whole year, and I never really thought, I did think I'd be here a year later. I went in it with the intention that I would be here a year later, but I'm still quite surprised that I managed to fill a good hour about knitting and wool every fortnight, thereabouts every fortnight. And it's all thanks to you, my viewers, and the feedback that I get and the encouragement far outweighs the 1 or 2 criticisms that I get. I do get the odd critique, I will call it, but definitely the positive feedback far outweighs anything else. So thank you. I hope you're all staying safe wherever you are in the world. I hope you're safe. I hope you're happy, and I hope you're getting lots of knitting done. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Bye.